Welcome to this Catholic Bioethics Moment. I'm Dr. Bridget Campion, and I'm speaking to Dr. Moira McQueen about conscience. Moira, what is conscience?
Conscience is the capacity we have as human beings to make moral decisions, you might say, the very basic capacity to say that something is right or something is wrong. And it's an area where we learn to distinguish between those two categories, really, the more mature we become. It's a very deep human capacity that helps us in all our major life decisions, really.
There's this phrase, formation of conscience.
Right.
What exactly does that mean?
Well, formation of conscience, and here I'm thinking within a Catholic perspective on it, mainly because our church has thought so much about this issue, because it teaches at one level that conscience is our greatest gift, because it even says in Gaudium et Spes, in the Second Vatican Council, that it's in our conscience that we're closest to God. It's a huge statement. It talks about conscience as the core and sanctuary of our being. So framed like that, we know as we say that we're talking about something really weighty. So when we talk about conscience formation, we're saying it's not enough, Moira, just for you to think this is right and this is wrong. There are some factors that you need to look at. And the very first one is knowledge of the facts. So often what you see is not what you get. We use that phrase a lot. You have to look beyond, you have to look at the circumstances. You have to really get to what you said, the truth of the situation. What Thomas Aquinas would say is the reality of the situation, because you can really only make good moral decisions if the facts you're working with are accurate. Obviously, if something's skewed, your moral decision is also slightly skewed as well. And then along with that, again looking at it from a Catholic perspective, because we have such a body of church teaching about many serious issues, Catholics are expected to know that teaching at least to a reasonable degree. What does the church say about contraception? What does the church say about abortion? What does the church say about euthanasia? And then from a personal point of view, we all grow up conditioned. Psychology tells us this, and our church looks to psychology as well. Depending on the area we grew up, the social circumstances, the religion that we grew up in, or the lack of religion, all these different factors that at early stages make us who we are. As we mature, we begin to see those other aspects that we have to factor in.
So you're talking about church teaching. You're talking about the church's interest in our conscience, and I'm assuming our church's interest in our well-being and salvation as well. How does church support us in our development of conscience?
I think it supports us actually in the part about what it says itself. I also saw that idea that it's really important for people not to just dismiss church teaching without even being aware of what it says. The church is asking us to be as open as possible to all these influences, including what it says, because it doesn't impose on us. That's not what it's about. And as you say, trying to look at the development of our goodness, virtue, and the whole question of salvation. And then, of course, it goes back to the statement I was making at the beginning. It was the church itself who said that conscience is the greatest gift, that conscience is the core and sanctuary of our being. And in an atmosphere like that, I think it becomes very clear to people that using your conscience is very much a between me and God. Listening to these other parts of information that the church is giving us, but the church doesn't tell us what to do. There's no element of coercion or imposition from the outside, so to speak. And I think sometimes people don't realise that. And that's why the church finds conscience to be such an incredible area.
Thank you very much.